Hi, and welcome to another Scientology Outside of the Church podcast brought to you by ao-gp.org and College of Independent Scientology.com. I'm here with Quentin Stroud and Arthur Mudakis. This is season 12, episode 8. And what's the title we came up with for this one, Quentin?
We're talking about traps, the anatomy of traps.
Traps. That's right. This will be a really good one. Uh, Quentin's done his homework on this, and we're going to get started. How are you guys?
Doing
Right.
fantastic. Yeah, Arthur and I came up with this because we were having a conversation, and not to go too much down a rabbit hole, but in the conversation, we basically was just talking about like stuff that you desire, stuff that you want, stuff that things in life, whatever it is that you kind of want, and when you want it, you look at the thing and be like, "Oh, that's a trap." And so I told Arthur, I was like, "Oh man," I said, "Yeah, but you know that's a trap, right? That's a trap." And he's like, "Yeah, it is." And we just kind of started going down this rabbit hole of what is a trap. So we're gonna dive into that today, and I think it's gonna be really interesting. And when you look around your life, as you're listening to this podcast, when you look around your life, see what really is there and what's keeping you, quote unquote, stuck, what's keeping you in it. And you're going to see how this whole thing unfolds as we go along. So, yeah.
Right. So LRH mentions that he basically spoke extensively about traps, mechanisms, and the anatomy of entrapment. So we're going to proceed with that, and let's define a trap, Quentin.
Yes. So, according to the Tech Dictionary, it says, well, it uses the word entrapment. So, it says entrapment is the opposite of freedom. A person who is not free is entrapped. He may be trapped by an idea. He may be trapped by matter. He may be trapped by energy or space or time, or he may be trapped by all of them. The more thoroughly a person is trapped, the less free he is. He cannot move. He cannot change. He cannot communicate. He cannot feel affinity and reality. Death itself could be said to be man's ultimate in entrapment, for when a man is totally entrapped, he is dead. And so when we talk about entrapment, we're talking about these barriers, these things that hit us, these things that are there, and they keep you from being able to move or to change or to communicate or to even feel, which I think is really interesting. These are traps.
And there are
It was
lots of them.
it was interesting when
There are lots of them.
when we were talking about it, the somatics that go with all the potential somatics that can go with it as well. Because in my case, it was the recognition of a somatic that feared me moving in towards something else when you brought up the trap.
Yeah, exactly. And it takes you into a whole different direction.
Oh man, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And so when
Well,
we look at, oh, go ahead.
yeah, go ahead. Oh, well, I was going to say, I mean, when you start heading in a different direction, that you've probably run into a barrier that is part of a trap, so to speak.
Yeah.
Yeah. When you
You
try
were
to go
saying,
the other
Quentin?
direction. Well, I was just
Yeah.
gonna say because when you look around life, obviously, for those of you who have not heard of the term in theta, right? In theta, entheta. In theta is basically enturbulated theta or enturbulated life, enturbulated thought. It says it especially refers to communications which, based on lies and confusions, are slanderous, choppy, or destructive in an attempt to overwhelm or suppress a person or group. So, this is interesting because when a being is mired in theta. This could be gossip. This could be anger. How many times do we see like reality TV shows or gossip columns or TMZ or whatever, and all this stuff, all this in theta that's going around, slanderous, he says, destructive, choppy, right? And when a person is flowing out in theta or surrounded by in theta, it starts to entrap them. Well, then that can lead to enmest. Now, we don't talk a lot about enmest a lot, but enmest is enturbulated mest. Mest being matter, energy, space, and time. And so, enturbulated mest, I'm just reading here, it says it's considered to be confused and enturbulated and is referred to in MEST. MEST in a life form is an orderly array, and I'm trying to avoid big words here, but he basically goes on to say how when you're dealing with this enturbulated MEST, confusion of the physical universe around you, look at your home, look at your car, look at your body, look at your face, look at your teeth, look at your hair, look at the things that's the matter, energy, space, and time. Look at just, for me, scheduling. Wait a minute, I just caught on something. Time, scheduling. It's enturbulated sometimes. And it gets all wonky because I have so many flows, so many things going on. And that becomes enturbulated. That could be a trap, y'all. That could be a trap. Do you see this?
Yeah, well, I think it's good to define how something becomes enturbulated enmest, or enturbulated theta.
Mm-hmm.
I think we should probably clear that up a little bit, where you have enthest and enmest and entheta. I said enthest.
Yes.
Enthemist is
All that.
is something becomes enturbulated, and a good example of that is because as thetans, per the axioms, we imbue. Maybe we need to look up the word imbue. Arthur, can you look up the word imbue?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
IMBUE.
Okay. 1 second. Okay. Inspire or permeate with.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And
So
it comes. Oh, that's interesting. So from the late Middle English, in the sense saturate from French, moistened from Latin, past particle of imbue, moisten.
Yeah.
Okay, so to
So when
inspire
you
or
imbue
permeate
something,
with.
you permeate with it. You permeate it
Yep.
with
right,
whatever that feeling is, whatever that quality is. You saturate it.
right. Now I'm gonna take a
Yeah,
hard
hence the
left turn
moisture.
here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I'm gonna take
Mm-hmm.
a hard left turn here, and this is something that has been proven time and time again through electronic mediums of spaces, and I'm stick with me here now for our listeners, uh, where ghost hunters have gone into enturbulated places in the physical universe. And you can go as grandiose or as benign as somebody's living room or a
Mm-hmm.
castle or any
An old
particular
hospital is
place,
burned down. Yeah.
an old
Mm-hmm.
hospital, a
Jails.
sanatorium,
Yeah.
yeah, jails, whatever. Okay, and what they found is that they found that there is a residual, an imbuement, residual latent recording of things that have occurred in that space, in that
Mm-hmm.
nest that is enturbulated. And Quentin, I'm sure, can give examples
Mm-hmm.
of this and stuff that he's seen in what he does as well, and Arthur both, and myself.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's not that shows this. And sometimes you say, well, the place is haunted, and that there's a being behind it that is doing this, when in fact that can or cannot be the case. Because if it's a being, it's enturbulated theta. That's n theta.
Yeah.
Whereas you have enmest that is enturbulated, wait for it, by theta, and the MEST is recording it. And it is
Mm-hmm.
still there because
Oh,
there
a
is
pain.
energy that has been imbued. Yeah, there's energy that has been imbued into the MEST, matter, energy, space, and time, that then plays back as a recording when it is activated by theta. Now, this
Mm-hmm.
we're going to go even further on. We're going to go even further on this because this parallels what they've just recently found out about spooky physics. This is really interesting
Mm-hmm.
because spooky physics, the way this works is that they could split an atom, s- take one half, leave it here, take the other half and put it somewhere else, whether it's on planet Earth or in space or whatever. And when they affect that half of an atom here on Earth and wherever the other half is that they're keeping track of, the atoms respond in kind,
Mm-hmm.
unilaterally.
Mm.
Entanglement theory. Yeah. Quantum
Entanglement
Yep.
entanglement.
theory. That is,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what this is it's quantum entanglement. So they're now discovering things that LRH talked about 70 years ago,
Yep.
or even
Is that
a
interesting?
little bit. Yeah, isn't that interesting? So this is a side rail, but this is what enmest and n theta are. Okay, so the two of them being entangled, theta and mest and theta, you run into this and go, what just happened? Why all of a sudden has this become a trap? This is part of that. And when you
Mm-hmm.
see this, it's an indication of n theta and or n mest, one or both.
Well, and
Uh,
also too, because it it captivates, and I'm going to use the word loosely, but fascinates people at times, depending on where you are on the tone scale. Like, have you ever? I think you say it all the time, Jonathan. Everybody loves a train wreck, right? Everybody loves
yeah,
a train wreck, and so this whole idea that that by curiosity, fascination, whatever this feeling is, and they just want to figure it out or look at it or go dig into it or whatever. When I watch some of these, movies, you can watch a horror movie and somebody will hear a noise and they'll be like, "Sally, is that you?" And then they'll go looking for Sally. Sally ain't said nothing. They'll go
Mm.
hmm
curiously, they say curiosity killed the cat. They'll go curiously looking for Sally. Sally, are you there? And then next thing you know, she dead.
Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
right.
I'm like,
Well,
listen, Sally, if you don't say nothing in 3 seconds, I'm out of here.
yeah,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and and that falls in line with what you see in the U.S. with the National Enquirer. And
Mm-hmm.
so they put these. I don't even know if they still have it there, but they used to. When you went to the grocery stand and you're checking out and everything, there's the National Enquirer. Lisa Marie Presley, blah 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 blah. N theta, N
Yeah.
theta, N theta, N
Gossip,
mest,
gossip,
N
gossip.
mest, N mest, gossip, 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 and that is a trap. They're
Yep.
trapping you with an alteration. An alter is to get
Yep.
your attention to go, what did Lisa Marie say? Why did Lisa Marie die? Oh, and so you're trapped because it's a
Yep.
mystery. A Thetan loves a mystery. Now,
Mm-mm-mm.
it's important to also note, and this is something that just occurred to me that needs to be mentioned, is what has happened on the backtrack track is these traps have been installed into the reactive mind. What makes up the reactive mind? That package that pretty much everybody on this planet and in this sector of the galaxy, per LRH, and I found this to be true myself, and Quentin's about to find out about it himself, Arthur soon as well, that these traps have been laid in as goals, problems, mass.
Yep.
White is black. trains are planes, this sort of thing. I'm not gonna give any confidential information here, but these traps have been laid in to where the dichotomies have been switched. Good is evil, evil is good, love is hate, hate is love. These are the traps that have been laid in that you operate off of every day as a non-clear and as a non-OT, especially with the composite case, which we've done other podcasts on, we won't get into here now. But the point is that the reason why we're seeing these traps, these enmests, these n thetas in present day, present time, is because they've been already laid in because there's a prior confusion there that says love is hate, hate is love, black is white, white is black. So you're drawn to it because you're like, wait a minute, this doesn't make any sense. Why did she just kick me in the shin in 4th grade and she loves me?
Oh my God.
So you're
I mean
saying
that's
that somebody's set a trap.
yeah, back on the backtrack, these societies put this in there because in order to control someone, you have to lie to them. We've talked about this LRH datum before. And so what you do is you confuse them with a subjective trap through pain, drug, hypnosis, whatever the society was using, that they laid this stuff in. Because if they made you small and gave you something else to do, you got out of their way. And they could go on doing the things that they wanted to do until their ethics catches up with them. And those societies ended up turning into dust, and not even that don't exist on the backtrack anymore. But what they did and gave to you that you agreed to and said, I'm going to take this on. But wait a minute. I'm going to hold my position. I'm going to take this on. Back and forth. This is what causes a rock slam on the meter. This is the
You
valence.
see it.
This is the valence switching. Yes, no, no, yes, yes, no, yo, yes, I can,
Yeah,
I can, I
yeah.
can. Slap, 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 bang, bang, bang. And it's so fast you can't even track it with your eye. That is what's happening. So when you get to where we're at now in these meat puppets known as bodies, and we're going around and we're hearing this and doing that and seeing this, and all of a sudden we've created and agreed to going into some trap that was created by another Thetan that has the same confusion as you do, hilarity ensues.
Yeah, and that each trap, and we're just going to take a moment to break down because that's exactly where we're going with this ultimately. But taking a moment to break down um the anatomy of a trap, like every trap has to give you something you want, right? There has to be some level of curiosity. In fact, LRH says here in on theta traps, this is in the tech dictionary. It says theta traps. How can you trap a thetan? By curiosity, by giving him awards and prizes, by retractor screens, by mock-ups, by ornate buildings, which he will enter
Ding, 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 ding,
unsuspectingly.
ding, 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 ding.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah.
To be electronic down. By some means, the Thetan is reduced from knowing to a colonist, a slave, a MEST body. All theta traps have one thing in common. They use electronic force to knock the Thetan into forgetting, into unknowing, into effect. Their purpose is to rid the area of those nuisances. They just said it, so you leave them alone. The purpose is to rid the area of those nuisances, the Thetan who cannot be policed, and gain personnel. Always the former, not always the latter. And so the idea here is that if we can give you these awards, if we can give you these dopamine hits, if we can give you these prizes, if we can give you these ornate buildings, the first thing I thought about was the White House. Or I thought about the political theater. I thought about the coliseums, or I'm sorry, the stadiums. They call them stadiums now. They used to call them
Yeah,
coliseums back in Roman time. And you
yeah.
walk in, and all these big roars. electronics and sound and lights, and
Right.
it's all there to make you dumber, to make you a colonist, to make you a slave, to make you just get so fixated, right? And giving you enough entertainment to keep you placated, to keep you out of the way, you know,
Yeah.
to get
Well,
rid of those nuisances.
right. So reason why I said ding, 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 ding is because we see this within our own zone of interest in
Yeah.
the current churches of Scientology. Look at the beautiful ideal org. Look at all these wonderful touch screens that we have and the beautiful gold filigree. And look at these beautiful chairs your butt will rest on when you sit on course. And we give you our own dictionary. But wait, it's our dictionary and you can't use dictionaries anymore that actually have the English language in them because we're going to define them all for you. But in this beautiful palace that is yours, yours, yours. That's what they're doing.
That's exactly how it sounded too.
And
Yeah,
it's
Right,
you
funny
just
right.
did the
because
whole video.
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah,
did it
yeah.
on purpose.
Uh, And it's funny because like I think a lot of us like even outside of looking at the tech and fast tracking these things and being able to discover them a lot sooner. I think a lot of people in their older age kind of start to realize this when it's a bit late too. Like they start
Yeah.
to question their life and they start to question their own existence, but at a much later stage.
Right, right,
And then they
right.
start to wonder, hang on, what did I
Yeah,
miss for the last 40, 50 years?
yeah. I've been to
Is
this
this
rodeo.
normal?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And
And
that's just on the street. Like
yeah,
just all of us,
whatever it
you know?
is. Yeah, but
Yeah.
it's a trap. I mean, we've literally on I can count on more than two hands the people that we've had come to us and say, "Yeah, but the org is so nice."
Yep. That I just had that conversation with a sister in Nevada. And she was like, It's just so beautiful. When you go there, it's just so nice. And you just want to be there." She said, "You just want to be there."
Mhm.
Right. And then that's when you
Yeah,
sound like
yeah, yeah,
Admiral
yeah.
Akbar in Star Wars and you go, "It's a trap."
Right. And I'll be like, I said to
It
her, I said,
sounds
I just go ahead, right?
it sounds like Hansel and Gretel.
Yeah.
Come on in, have a
Take
sweet, have a sweet.
Right.
Take as many
yes.
lollies as
The
you
ge-
like. Yeah.
the
Yeah,
house
never
made of
mind the
candy.
oven in the corner.
Yeah, yeah,
Right.
yeah, yeah.
Well,
Don't
but
worry, I'm
and, and
gonna
I
eat
and I
you.
and I said to her, I want to be in my office. I want to be in my home. I want to do remote auditing. I want to be able to get up out of the bed, go get me some breakfast, come in to my office, close the door, get in my chair, put the cans in, get in session with my auditor. I want to be able to do that. And when I get my wins, when I go like exterior, when I have this amazing experience in session, I can get up and I can create and I can paint and I can do my thing. I can go downstairs and walk around the block and get some space and I can have a wonderful day. I don't need to be in a building that I'm paying out the butt for just to look pretty in it. No, I don't need that. I pay
And you know
enough for
what?
my house.
You make a really
Right.
good point there because like what you were saying before, John, like around um the quantum aspect of like rooms and spaces holding memory, like you're doing this in your own home. So while you're changing, your home is also changing. It's like you're putting new input into your own space,
Right.
as
Yes.
opposed to not wanting to be in your home. Like I used to do a lot of, I do a lot of people would come to me, and then I started like to get their spiritual help. But then I started realizing, like after they'd see me, they'd be great, but then they'd go into their own environment again, and then things would start creeping in. So I started going to their homes and then
Mm-hmm.
getting them to reconnect that space as well to get out of their own traps that they've created in their own space.
That's
So I
right.
think auditing from home is way more powerful because while you're creating your being and shifting it, you're also shifting the chain, shifting your home as well, or the space you're
Yeah.
in.
Right. Well, and you
Yep.
also have to take in consideration when you're getting auditing in a modern day corporate Scientology org, they're recording the session, which is nowhere in
Well,
tech
that too, yeah.
bulletins at all. So you have to ask yourself, is this already enturbulated theta and enturbulated MEST? Well, that's for you to decide. I mean, I could give you my answer. But the thing is that no matter where you go, there you are. It's either enturbulated MEST and theta, or it's theta and MEST. And MEST is persisting because there's a lie behind it. So you always have that as an underlying theme and an extant principle that you need to be aware of. I don't know if it's true or not, but it has been said by the church that the reason why they bought the free winds is because LRH said, we want people to go out and do OT8 out on the water, out in the open ocean, because they're off the beaten path of society, where you have this create, counter create, create, counter create, create, counter create, create, counter create, which causes it to persist and also enturbulates the MEST, that also enturbulates the theta, and vice versa. I cannot prove, deny, or confirm that he actually said this, given the history
Hmm.
of the OT8 materials and all that, which is a whole other podcast.
Hmm.
But if he did say that, that would ring true, because the nature of this universe, which we've talked about in previous podcasts, is part of the problem that these societies that laid in this interbulation, these traps, black is white, white is black, is because they found that there's so much life in the MEST universe, with theta being imbued into it, that they found themselves counter created to the point to where they had to stop all of the other thetans that were counter creating them. So they said, okay, we'll just confuse the living daylights out of them and they'll be out of the way. Well, that in itself is enturbulating theta, which is then enturbulating MEST. And then you get what we've got here on Earth.
This is so interesting. So interesting. And let me just say this for the record, and for anybody listening to this podcast, because we've talked about a number of big concepts so far, and there's still
Mhm.
more. But one, Art just made mention about auditing at home and how
Mhm.
he sees the value of being able to audit in your own space, remote auditing, because you actually are also shifting and changing your own space, your own mess, right? So you guys know that I grew up, Jehovah's Witness. Those of you who listen to the podcast, I grew up Jehovah's Witness, and we used to go, of course, door to door, knocking on people's doors, talking about, the Bible or whatever. And we used to do these in-home Bible, we would offer in-home Bible studies. The reason for that, and this was actually talked about extensively in the Jehovah's Witness meetings and stuff like that, is because when you go into the person's home and you're sharing the good news, they would say, you're sharing the good news with them in their home, it actually brings happiness to their home. This is actually what was said in that modality, right? So when
Yeah.
Arthur was just making mention about this, about auditing from an independent Scientology perspective, and remote auditing, and being able to be in your home actually gets in order. Your life
Right.
gets in order. You start to
Yeah.
bring more order to your own existence, and you
Yeah.
don't
That's
also
right.
put
Yep.
that energy to some other organization or some other space that's not your own. You don't have to do that anymore. We now have the capability of auditing you remotely, where you can set your space up the way you want it. However many I got pillows, because I like pillows in my chair. I got pillows. I got my can. I put a little towel down so that my hands don't have to sit on the desk or whatever. I make my space feel so good for me when I go in session, because I want to make sure that this is my space. This is what I've created. The other thing that Jonathan just mentioned was, you just talked about how create, counter create, create, counter create, and you talked about how all the confusion that exists in our lived experience in our world. And this is so real. And there are societies and there are spiritual modalities that talks about this confusion that exist. If you ever studied the Tower of Babel in the Bible, the Tower of Babel, and it literally says, and God confused the languages in theta. God
Yeah,
confused the languages in theta, and
yeah.
they went away sad. And all the people went away sad to their various parts of the world. They couldn't even talk anymore. They couldn't even think anymore. They went away sad. This is real stuff. This is what people, when we talk about this stuff from a Scientological perspective, with Scientologies and our words and stuff like that. Listen, the stuff that LRH discovered was phenomena that he studied throughout multiple religions around the world, throughout multiple spiritualities and practices around the world, and said, let's break this down from a 20th century perspective so that we can understand this thing and then make it right. And that's what we do now, which I love.
Right. And auditing is disinterbulating theta.
That's
Word
right.
clearing is disinterbulating theta. Theta is theta the solver, not theta the problem. MEST is theta, is MEST the problem imbued by theta. Okay, it's not the other way around. It's you and the MEST universe. It's not the MEST
That's
universe
good.
and you. Okay, so if you're auditing at home, just as an example, because that was the context, is if you're
Mhm.
auditing at home, you're going to be disinterbulating your universe because it's your
Right.
create based on top of a lot of other create, counter create. You put your stuff in one place, somebody else puts it there, or maybe somebody breaks in and takes your stuff, breaks some of your stuff, and now it's enturbulated by their theta. Or maybe you're a really theta person, you're neat and tidy, your order versus disorder is low, and so that everything's orderly and everything like that. So you have a theta environment. Well, that's going to help your auditing sessions as well. But it doesn't matter where you go. I mean, when I was in my hometown, there were areas I would go into, and I had immediately the hairs would stand up on my arm and back of my neck and everything. And when I was a kid, and I was like, "What is going on here?" And this was literally underneath and in the area of Worlds of Fun, which is the amusement park in Kansas City. It's like
Mm.
a small version of Disneyland that was built in the 70s. Guess what's underneath in the limestone caves beneath that amusement park? This was the area. I went to middle school in that area, lived in that area when I was in my 30s. This whole area has an underground military base underneath it. I kid you not. It's
Wow.
yes, it's enturbulated theta by and for theta through MEST. And you'll find you'll
Hmm.
go into certain areas wherever you are on the planet. There are areas that are uninturbulated, there are areas that are not inturbulated. But see, this is the bigger theme of the podcast is traps. But the thing
Right.
is you as a Thetan know if this is something you should get into or not. And to the degree that you've gone up the bridge is to the degree that you are aware when something is a trap. But even if you are, and this is what goes back to what we talk about in the podcast all the time, and you hear it all the time: tone scale, tone scale, tone scale, chart of human debility, all that stuff. Well, that is telling you to the degree that somebody is enturbulated theta and has enturbulated MEST. The higher tone they are, the less enturbulated they are, the less enturbulated their
Yes.
MEST is. The less they agree with the enturbulation and are not bothered by it. They are unencumbered by it.
Hmm.
So, but the thing is how you can get trapped is that when you have affinity for another person, another group. Gosh, that org is beautiful. I really love the tech, but I just can't stand the way they pressure me. But that org, man, who agreed with it?
You did.
Mic
You
drop.
you you Yeah,
Yeah.
you get into it,
Yeah.
and a trap locks your attention in place, and it's interesting because you just talked about affinity for other people. And if you really think about it, when you get into a relationship, and if that relationship is flowing within theta, right? When we talked about what in theta was again, it's that lower band, and you know when it's there, you know when you feel it, you know what it is, right? It's that lower band of communication, that lower band of you know uh, um, choppy and poor communication, dis not disinterpolated. What's the word I'm looking for? I'm gonna say disgusting energy. Like you can feel it. It doesn't feel right to your spirit. That's how I would say it.
The
And what?
disingenuousness.
Yeah, it just doesn't feel right to your spirit. And then what ends up happening is because of the affinity, because of the like I just said before, you get into a trap for something that you want. I want this relationship. I want this love. I want this connection. I want this person even. And yet it's enturbulated. Yet it's destructive per LRH. I'm not making this
Right.
stuff up.
Right.
And so you get trapped in it, and it reduces one's ability to choose. That's what a trap does. It
Yeah.
reduces your ability to choose because now you're not operating with your own freedom of choice. You're now entranced by it. You're now so in love or so captivated or so nah. Mm-mm. Get out the trap. I'm telling you
Right.
now.
You made the
When you know,
decision.
Yeah.
yeah, you make the decision, and it breaks you down. I think the curiosity is like it says curiosity, desire, agreement. This is the scale.
Mhm.
Curiosity. So think about a trap. Huh? What is that? Where's Sally? Curiosity, then desire. You want something, then agreement. You agree to be there. Then commitment to it. Then it goes down into obligation to it. Then it's that lower would be a confusion about it. And then lastly would be no escape, which is death, right? No escape. And so you go down this dwindling spiral where you get into this place where you're confused about it and you get into this place where there's no escape from it. This is a trap. This is the anatomy of a trap.
Mhm.
And we're giving you this because we want you to take a look at your own existence, take a look at your own decisions, take a look at your own life and ask yourself, where do I have fixed attention? Why can't I stop thinking about that? Why can't I stop talking about that? Why can't I stop? You know what I say? I say a blocking is a blessing. I block them in a minute. I block people as fast as they can blink because because I'm not gonna be trapped. I'm not gonna be trapped by it. And
Right.
you have to protect your own free thought, your own free attention units. I hope I'm making sense to people. You got to protect your
Yeah.
own free attention units because your free attention units is what gives you power. Power to
At that moment.
choose. Yeah, exactly. Your free attention units is what gives you power. Power to choose, power to exercise or get results, power to do what you need to do. And you got to keep those things free so you can be yourself.
Right. And what I was saying earlier about if you've already been given lies that you're operating off of that are below your awareness, you could see how you could fall into a trap now because you fell into a trap before. And way back on the backtrack, you fell into the trap of saying, you know what? Yeah, I'll take one of those reactive minds. You know what? I'll take two. Hey, that's a
Mm.
good deal. Or because you were trying to hold your position. And like Ellerate says, he says it isn't the implants that are aberrative. The aberrativeness is that you're trying to hold your position and somebody is trying to push you off it. That's really the trap. Really.
Wow. Yeah, that's it. I decided this somewhere along my track. I decided this, and I'm trying to hold my position to what I said I was gonna do, be, have, whatever it is, good, bad, or indifferent. I decided this, and something's trying to push me off, and I'm going to hold firm to this. I know I don't need to be in this situation, but by God, I'm gonna make it work.
Right. I decided it and I can hold my position. I can be right. Okay. All right. And this is what we have auditing for this. Okay. We have auditing for this. It's called the CS 37R rundown. Okay.
Yes.
What could you continue doing? It's part of L11. It's not confidential. It's in the CS series. And
Mm-hmm.
it handles a person because a Thetan can continue to do anything as long as they want, if
Whatever. Yeah.
they choose. And Thetans, let me tell you, Thetans choose a lot. And this is what we're talking about: is these are traps. But the thing is, ultimately, no matter what, who, where, when, how anybody has said anything to you, you decided the trap. Because you're holding your position, and you can change your position very, very simply. Get in session with your auditor, get in session with me, get in
Mm-hmm.
session and find out what it is, because it's the opposite flow. That's how this 37 RCS series operates: is what could you continue to do?
Mm.
That's how you unmock it. Because then when you say I can continue to do that forever, you know, yeah, gosh, I don't have to do
Mm.
that forever. I mean, you remember that, Quentin, on L11.
Yeah. Gosh, I'm laughing because let me tell you something. Doing your L's, for those of you who the L's stands for listing and nulling, and L11, um, doing your L's, you blow so much case, so much charge. You become such a big being again. And the freedom that comes after the L's, the freedom, because you're no longer locking yourself into being small. That's what the L's did for me. I'm just speaking from my own personal experience. You're
Mhm.
no longer locking yourself into being small. You're no longer locking yourself into a fixed way of existing or whatever that is for you. And so doing the L's, man, when you just said that, I was like, I just started laughing because it's like I can keep doing this thing. No, I don't want to do
Right,
that.
right. Because I mean, and this is within the context of the podcast as far as traps.
Right.
It, like LRH talks about, okay, so we're looking at valences, and valences means I've taken on somebody else's behavior other than my own. So I'm caught in a trap, because if I can't beat them, I should join. Wait a minute. I join them.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's where the obligation comes in.
And that's where
Yeah,
you
that's
start
it.
to form a trap right there, because that scale, okay, curiosity. What if I was like Hitler?
Mm.
Hmm. Maybe I want to be like Hitler. Desire. You know what? Maybe he's right. Agreement.
Great
Oh,
man.
wait, I'm going to join the SS. Commitment.
Commitment.
Oh, wait, I saw something I didn't like, but I'm obligated now and they'll shoot me. If I
I'm a
stop
soldier.
now, they're killing Jews. Oh my
Yep.
God. Confusion. What do I do? This is awful. These guys are murderers. I didn't sign up for this. Gosh, I can't
Yeah.
leave now because they really will kill me. I have to withhold. Boom.
No escape.
No escape.
Mm,
How about
mm,
that?
mm. And
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 that's
and
all.
and
Go ahead.
that's life. That is this life. That is this messed body experience as a being. And if you go that entire scale, curious, desire, agreement, commitment, obligation, confusion, no escape. And most people are operating somewhere on those lines: obligation, confusion, no escape, operating somewhere on those lines where it's like, how do I can't, this just is my life. This is it. I gotta keep taking care of these kids. I gotta keep doing this. I gotta go to that job. I gotta.
Right. And the
Man.
people. Yeah, the people that won't amend, and they're like, yeah, maybe the Scientology stuff works, and then they start to find out more stuff about it, and they're like, wait a minute, I'm going to have to change. I'm going to
Yeah.
have to
Mm-hmm.
change, and I mean, I can't be out ethics anymore, and I can't manipulate people, and I can't use them anymore. And well, wait a minute, you know what? The Scientology stuff is no good because, well, I can't be
Yeah.
myself, and I can't do all the things that I like to do to people and to myself, and then I wouldn't have a game anymore. Oh my God! So they never get out of the valence, so they never get terminal velocity, critical mass to do
Mm-hmm.
anything other than what it is they're doing because they're so caught up in agreement and commitment because a solution to a problem that becomes a future problem, a further problem, that is part of the valence that they are stuck in and they cannot escape it without sitting in the chair long enough for us to get something done with them in order to let them see the light that there is a solution to disinturbulate theta and disinturbulate MEST. So it's a trap within a trap within a trap within a trap within a trap, and so on. This doesn't mean that you should get, oh gosh, this is too much for me to confront. I can't do this. No,
Mm.
you need to allow yourself and love yourself enough that you can invest in yourself enough to take the time and see that it works for you. And we will unwind this together through this podcast, through courses, through word clearing, through auditing, and there is a
Yeah.
way out. There is a solution.
Yeah. And if you need somebody to talk to, if you need somebody to talk to these things with, please reach out to us. You can go onto the website ao-gp.org and shoot us a message. I'm always available. Comment down below this video. You can also go on collegeofindependentscientology.com. And if you don't already have a profile, create a profile and open up the conversation. Like this is stuff that we want you talking about this. We don't want you hiding in your own hovels trying to figure this all out in your head. Don't self audit. Don't self audit. Like really get out there and open up the conversation. So like and I love what Jonathan just said. You get enough critical mass. You get enough velocity to break through that exosphere, to break through the thermosphere, to break through the stratosphere of this earth, and you become such a big being, bigger than you've ever been before. And it's wonderful. Trust me, the air is wonderful up here.
And look at that view.
Right.
Isn't it a marvel?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So
Arthur,
so we go ahead, Arthur.
we
No,
lose you?
you're right.
Okay.
No, I'm still here. I'm still here.
Okay. Caught up in the moment.
Well, it's just
Yeah.
even just the whole concept of a trap. Like when you're in it, you can't get out of it.
Right. Because
And only
you
some
can't see it.
escape. Yeah.
Yeah. You
And then,
can't see the trees
some
for the forest.
animal. That's right. And even if you just consider an animal, like what do we do to trap an animal? We lure it with something. And it's just funny how we trap ourselves as well on top of it. We
Yeah.
lure ourselves into our own traps, let alone
Right.
somebody else creating it. Yeah.
And we live on a trap, and there's lots of pretty
Yeah.
bells and whistles and buildings and aesthetics and all of this stuff, and it's just it's just, look at it, it's just so beautiful, and that's the
Yeah.
trappiness of it. So look at it for
Well,
what it is
marketing
and
works
go,
that way.
well, right.
Well,
Yeah.
and when you're in a trap, a trap is no longer a trap once you know that it is. I want you to get this. The nature of a trap has to be covert. Think about walking through the forest, a bear trap or whatever. Walking through the forest is hidden. Where the bear falls down into the pit, a bear pit. It has to be hidden. If once you know it's a trap, it's now just a problem. I want you to get this. Once you know that I'm in a trap in my life. I'm in a trap to my finances. I'm in a trap to my situation. I'm in a trap in a bad marriage or bad relationship. I'm in a trap to my body and the effects of my body or the condition of my body. Once you know you're in a trap, it's no longer a trap. It's now just a problem. And now you become theta the solver, you become theta solver to now bring solution to the problem. This is why auditing works, because you actually now know, I know that my life is riddled with traps and I got to get out of this. I got to fix this. Need for change on the characteristics.
Chart of awareness.
Chart of awareness. That's right. Need for change. And so now that I know I have my life riddled with traps and I need to change this, I got to get out of this. I now get myself connected. I get in session. I get on course. I start getting tech that I can apply to my life. And I start unraveling these traps, because once you know you're in a trap, it's no longer a trap. It's a problem.
Right.
And the problem can be solved.
Yeah.
Something
Agree to
can be done
disagree.
about it.
Yeah. Agree to disagree
Yeah.
with the traps that you've agreed to.
Oh
And
God, that's so good.
making the first step and unwinding it is the key to the trap.
Mm,
Mm.
wow.
So we hope you guys have gotten a lot out of this, our listeners. And thank you for being here. And we've enjoyed this podcast, hopefully, as much as you did. And we will catch you maybe tomorrow or Tuesday for another podcast. And we'll get you some more information and give you the straight scoop on LRH Tech as much as we can. Thank you for being here. Namaste, and we love you. Bye-bye.
Peace.
Bye-bye.
Hi, and welcome to another Scientology Outside of the Church podcast. This is season 12, episode 7. We're going to do a podcast on emotional charge,
Mm-hmm.
and it's going to be the truth about emotional charge and what that all entails, and give a breakdown of the things that basically push people around every minute of every day that they're not asleep, and sometimes even when they're asleep, depending on what the situation is. I'm here with Quentin Stroud, and Arthur has the evening off, so it'll just be Quentin and I. Quentin, how are you?
Hey, I'm doing fantastic. My emotions are intact.
You're not charged.
Well, that as much as I could be. Trust.
Yeah. So let's get right into this, and basically, let's delineate this for our listeners and subscribers to the podcast, and ask the question: have you ever wondered why something from 10 years ago can still ruin your day in 10 seconds?
Jeez, man. Yeah, I mean, we don't really talk a lot about this, and I think that when people think about independent Scientology, they think of it's more of a heady, it's more of a heady religion, like it's more of a heady spiritual practice. And so what ends up happening is those emotional moments when a person is really going through something, right? And we're going to get into the depths of that in a minute. But those emotional moments often get intellectualized and reframed sometimes as something that's going on in the head and not the heart. And again, I'm using these terms colloquially, like these expressions are something that even kind of are misnomers, but I think you get what I'm saying, where
Yeah.
it's like stuff is I'm feeling some kind of way, and as opposed to that being immediately recognized as an intense emotional event, it can sometimes be intellectualized. And that's what we're going to kind of deal with right now.
Right. It's something people deal with every day. And emotional charge is there because there's something that has been yet heretofore unhandled that they can't spot themselves, that is causing them to experience this misemotion,
Mm.
uh, and it can have multiple earlier events that are affecting them that cause the present charge, the manifestation of that emotion, to manifest in very severe ways.
Yeah. Well, I think you just said something like misemotion, the misemotion, which I think is interesting how we use it. So let's start there. Why do we call it misemotion?
Well, misemotion, if you see somebody get upset about something, you're talking to them, and all of a sudden they respond in a way that does not befit the current situation. And then the
Mm,
person says, so what are you getting upset about? Whether it's anger, fear, grief, apathy, you name it, that is not what one would expect somebody to respond with. And that is charge, bypassed charge that's been touched on but not handled, that is showing up as a manifestation with that person at the time that you're dealing with them, or even yourself. Why am I feeling
yeah,
this way?
yeah. Well, and it's especially when you as a being want to go through life, and of course we know life isn't always happy rainbows and unicorns and whatnot, but we typically want to go through life experiencing the pleasures of life, experiencing those moments of life that makes us feel good, and makes us feel pro survival, and makes us feel like we want to keep going, and very uptone and upstat, right? So in the tech dictionary, misemotion is defined as anything that is unpleasant emotion, such as antagonism, anger, fear, grief, apathy, or a death feeling. It says emotion and misemotion include all levels of the complete tone scale except pain. Emotion and misemotion are closely allied to motion, being only a finer particle action. And then misemotional, which is right under that, it says such a word would indicate that a person did not display the emotion called for by the actual circumstances of the situation. Being misemotional is synonymous with being irrational. Isn't that interesting? And
Mhm.
so and so if you're dealing with your 2D or your relationship, or you're dealing with somebody who, you really want to have a good flow, and yet boom, this this seemingly irrational, uncalled for emotion displays itself, that is being misemotional to the situation, right? And it doesn't mean that they don't have a right to feel how they feel, and they have, they are a completely self-determined, free-willed individual, right? And so if that's how that person is choosing to show up in that moment, or wishes, or wants to show up in that moment, that's totally up to them. But it's still a misemotional thing. It can still be considered misemotional.
Right. And that is the issue, is why am I feeling this way, and how do I handle it? It's charge makes you overreact or underreact because you
Mm,
are in a position where I need to do this or I can't do that. And so the person
hmm
shuts down and doesn't communicate. And so they're quiet because, I mean, it could go as far as somebody said when they were a kid and slapped them, be quiet.
yeah, yeah,
Or I mean, it can manifest in so many different ways. It's hard to understand, but you're on the outside when you're dealing with that person or even with yourself. You don't know what the reason is or the why for it is, but it's an emotional response that is not what one would expect at that moment in time.
right. And back of that, and this is what we're going to go to now, but back of that is where we have these secondaries, right?
Hmm.
These secondaries. And so, if you understand, for those of you who have read Dianetics, and if you haven't, we're going to kind of break it down a little bit. But physical pain, physical pain and unconsciousness is necessary for the creation of an engram, right? So what ends up happening is when a person experiences physical pain and unconsciousness, the analytical mind shuts down to whatever degree, and the reactive mind kicks in. It turns on. It starts recording, right?
Right.
This is an engram. Now, what LRH discovered was that emotional pain can have a very similar effect, right? Emotional pain can also be like a blow. And if you ever have experienced a sudden announcement of a loss, like, oh, somebody passed away, or a sudden announcement of a breakup, I'm out of here, I'm over, this is done, and you can experience a very heavy emotional incident, right? This is called a secondary. The reason why it's called a secondary is because it gets its charge, or the bulk of its charge, from an earlier engram. Am I explaining that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it gets its charge, or the bulk of its charge, from an earlier incident, which contains physical pain, which contains unconsciousness, which contains loss, which contains grief, whatever those feelings that one may be feeling. And the secondary turns on, and that's when misemotion really starts to kick in. That's when the irrational fears, the irrational grief or anger or whatever starts to kick in. And this stuff can go on and on and on. And the person who might be experiencing it, again, because it's below their conscious level of awareness, they are not, I don't know why I feel this way. I just feel some kind of way right now. This don't
Right.
feel right to me. You
Right.
know, we hear it all the time.
Yeah, because if they knew what was wrong with them, it wouldn't be wrong with them. Therefore, it wouldn't be miss emotion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So,
It would just be what, yeah, it'll be what I'm experiencing, what I'm feeling right now in this moment. And if I can explain that rationally, like if there's a loss of a relationship and a person says, oh, I'm sad about that, that makes sense. Totally got that. You know what I mean? You there was somebody who you cared about, somebody who you loved, and the deal ended. Okay, I'm sad about that, right? But if it starts to get irrational, if it starts to get the overwhelming grief, I can't live without you, and I'm gonna. You know what people's, you know how it goes, right? And all this stuff starts to turn
yeah.
on. Now there's something back of that. Okay, let's take a look and see what's going on.
Yeah, and that's the thing is that it's not something that is controllable. It is just something that, well, and this is why it's called the reactive mind, is
Yeah.
it is a reaction. It is a reactive response for which there seems to be no apparent reason. Somebody says, well, I was abused as a child, and that abuse that I received from that dollar store clerk reminded me of that.
Hmm.
Okay, if that was that, then why did you have miss emotion?
Yeah. Yeah. If you knew from whence it came, then why you let it come?
Right, exactly. So there's still something there that is yet unseen, which gets into, the Scientology axioms and the Dianetic axioms, that for anything to persist, there's a lie behind it, and this is something that is uninspected, but yet is persisting.
Mm.
So so
Yeah.
that gets us to, it's in money, it's in body image, it's in abandonment, it's in abuse, it's in going to the grocery store as a normal matter of business, and there's a certain smell or a certain sound or a
Hmm.
certain look that then quote unquote triggers or re-stimulates you to where something happens, and
Yeah.
then you have this reactive mind response, which is a now I'm supposed to response, because it's trying, the reactive mind is trying to protect you. That's what it was designed for, but it's gone wrong.
Right. Right. And so you're in the store and you see a jar of pickles, and oh, he always loved pickles. And boom, crying, all this kind of stuff happens or whatever, right? And again, a person experiencing the full range of emotions is a healthy thing. It's clearly that we as beings have the ability to experience the full range of emotions. But pickles, the purpose of pickles is not to make you cry. Not what pickles are for, right? So if seeing the pickle turns something on, I hope you following the logic here. If seeing the pickle turns something on, there's something that's connected with it. There's some stored grief or some stored anger or some stored whatever it is that's back of that is being turned on, being activated, re-stimulated. And now we realize that there's something much bigger here that I should or could take a look at, right, and deal with. And this is why auditing works. Because what's happening is in auditing, you're going to go in and you're going to, with your auditor's help, you're going to find those things that have locked you in that state. You're
Right.
going
And
to, go ahead.
yeah, I mean, and the way that you can handle this with a person, and again, we don't want to use what, who, or why questions
Yeah.
because that gets us into a lot of charged territory, and we're not doing that type of auditing. But it has a lot to do with this. But you could talk to someone and you could find areas of charge that need to be handled and say, so tell me how you feel about things you avoid talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me how you feel about the things and how this occurs when you become instantly angry.
Mm.
Tell me what your thoughts are on when you freeze up and you seem almost paralyzed. Things like
Mm-hmm.
that. You know get the thoughts, feelings, and considerations around memories that still replay or things that activate the person the fastest. These are charged areas. And you can go in with Dianetics procedure without a meter, and you can help that person with those areas by just running it with good old fashioned, tried, true, trusty Dianetics book one.
Mm-hmm. For
You
sure.
you did that for 400 hours.
Yeah. And what's interesting is the thing, LRH is so right, and you said it too, Jonathan, that if you knew what it was, it ain't it. because and this is why talk therapy, psychotherapy, cognitive behavioral therapy, whatever, this is why it kind of, I get what you're trying to do, but you're not really hitting it. Because if the person can sit there and say, "Oh, when my mother, you know, said no wire hangers, and did what she did or said what she said, and that just messed me up," it ain't it. That ain't it. It's
Right.
because, because if you could put your finger on it, that ain't the what.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's for it to persist and to still happen, there's something else underlying that you haven't seen, or it wouldn't be persistent, like we said earlier. So there's something else that's going on there, and that's something that is unobserved. And how you find that is either with Dianetics or Scientology auditing, or preferably both, to find the bypass charge that the pre-clear is unaware of in order to prevent these things from happening again.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, people try to affirm their way out of it, meditate it away, numb it with alcohol, drugs,
Mm-hmm.
or just plain ignore it, not is it. And
Right.
I mean, on and on and on. But the charge stays until it's released, which is very much the case. So that brings us to how emotional charge is discharged.
Yes. And so
So go
I'll
ahead.
say this: when we're looking at the tone scale again, these emotions that one can experience all across the emotional tone scale, as a free thetan, as a person who can move up and down the tone scale, when it's required or when it's necessary or when it's called for, that is normal, right? That is havable, right? It's when a person starts to get I'm using these words not to evaluate for anybody, but just to kind of get you to see what's happening, or when this could happen. When a person might start to get snappy or antagonistic, when a person might start to get very bitter and holding grudges, when a person starts to get withdrawn, they kind of come across as numb, like they don't care, they don't give a I don't give a you know. When a person is overly fragile, right, or overly dramatic, it's like I say the slightest thing and it just crumbles your entire universe. Like, no, 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 that wasn't my intention. I was just trying to say I didn't like those shoes. Like, what? You think I'm fat? What? You know, it's like all that, right? And so what ends up happening is these held in place emotional charges are sticking there for some reason. They're stuck there for some reason. And it's important that we go in and are able to discharge these emotions, these emotional incidents, these secondaries. It's important that we go in and discharge them. What is the way that we handle secondaries?
Well, you can run a secondary just like you can an engram or a lock, because the more you go over it, the more charge comes off, which leads to the engram. So you can use it as an entry point uh, just as easily. It's whatever is real to the person. So you could say, so tell you know, tell me about what happened to. They say, gosh, I started getting this nauseous feeling. I went to Burger King and I just started to feel sick and I had to run into the bathroom and throw up. Okay, so tell me about that. And you get there and you say, okay, so go to the beginning of that incident and tell me when you're there. And they run through it and you say, okay, good. Let's go back to the beginning of the incident and tell me when you're there. And they run through it. And as you do that, you get more of what's going on. And then you can take that to jump to, if it's a lock or it's a secondary, whether doesn't matter what it is, it's all going to lead into the fold of that engram, and at least currently what's going on into an engram chain. And you'll have an earlier time where the person felt sick about food, and an earlier
Hmm.
time, and it could lead anywhere. You never know where it's going to go. You know how this works, Quentin. You've seen that.
For sure.
And so that's the interesting thing about auditing is that you never know where it's going to lead, because if you did, it wouldn't be aberrating you, like we've mentioned here in the podcast.
Right. Right. Well, and the thing I love about Dianetics and independent Scientology auditing is that what's interesting about it is that when you go to the beginning of these incidents and you're going over it, you're returning to that moment, you're returning to that incident, and you're re-experiencing it, right? With all full perceptives, with all the things turned on. And so, might you cry? You might cry. I remember snot coming out of my nose. I remember headaches. I remember my forehead, because I was so angry, my forehead was crinkled up and I was getting a headache, like right there in the front of my forehead. Like I was so in it. Okay. I was so in it that all this stuff was turned on. I was re-experiencing these emotions. I was re-experiencing these incidents. And what ends up happening is that each time, like you said, each time you contact it and gotta go to the beginning, go over it again, go to the beginning, go over it again. Each time you contact it, you discharge a little bit of that emotion, or that charge. You discharge a
Right, it
little bit of it.
dissipates.
Yeah, it dissipates, correct. Well, what's interesting is that if it doesn't, and there is an earlier similar, you can find where this stuff was coming up, and you might not have known that that's how you felt. There was a situation with my brother. I was in session, and I had no idea because at first I was just starting to get sick on my stomach. And so I told, about my somatic, what was turning on. And we go earlier, similar. And it was an incident with my brother where we were wrestling. This was when I was a kid, like a small thing. And we were wrestling, and my brother ended up kneeing me in the stomach, not like trying to like hurt me, but we were just kind of tumbling, boom. I get so angry. And so I just started wailing, like wow, 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 wow. I can laugh about it now, but I just started wailing, whoa, 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 whoa. And my brother was older than me, so he was a little bit taller and bigger than me. But listen, I wasn't backing down. Okay. And I say all this to say is that when you're going through this stuff, you don't know. I had no idea that back when I was like 5 or 6 years old, or whatever, that I was dealing with that still at 43.
Yeah.
43. And I'm going through these feelings, you know? And so I'm just giving you this viewpoint, not to say this is your experience, yours could be totally different, but the stuff that is really hurting you, and I'm saying hurting emotionally, and in my case, it was even physiological. I was having like gut issues because of this. The stuff that is hurting you could be stuff that you have no idea is there until you get in session.
Right. Right. Because you have to start somewhere.
Right, for
so
sure.
so that's the whole point, is that you will go the adverse effect of this stuff until you get some reality on it, and then you go, oh, okay, well, I need to keep working on this. Because as an example, here you are talking about this incident that happened to you as a child, and you're laughing about it.
Right. Yeah.
that's
Yep.
that's not miss emotion. Is you're looking at it for what it was, and you saw how it was affecting you as an adult.
Right. For sure. A- and I've been able to do the same thing when it comes to my father's death. I've been able to do the same thing. Like, just you get to a point where I got it. Like that the grief becomes a memory. And not to say that I don't miss my father, not to say that I don't have still that feeling, excuse me, that feeling of wanting to be, you know, communicative and present with my father, but the grief charge doesn't sit on me. The grief of it all doesn't weigh on me. And so I'm able to live and thrive and move, while my brother, unfortunately, sits with it often. And we've talked about it multiple times, right? About how
Hmm.
how much that loss affected him and still does. And so these things are very, very real. And we just wanted to have this conversation because I think a lot of times when we talk about um, independent Scientology, we often talk a lot about what's going on in the head space. And I'm using that again, not literally, but we kind of talk about what's going on in the intellectual space versus in the emotional space. And we want you to know that as a happy person, as a clear, right? If you're clear, you experience the full range of emotions. I get happy, I get sad, I get mad, I get glad. Like you experience a full range of emotions, but you don't get stuck there as a clear. You don't get stuck there when you don't have that reactive mind feeding data into your lived experience right now. Boom, 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 over and over and over again. And it's like, how do I get free of this? Well, there's a way. And we facilitate that, we help that, we want you to understand it by going on the college of independent scientology.com, and you can take courses. You can get into this and you can really understand what's going on with my mind, what's going on with these emotions that seem to take hold of me, you know and then
Right.
you can
and
handle
it,
them.
and they push you in directions that you wouldn't normally go. It's like being in a labyrinth that you don't know where it's headed, and sometimes it's a dead end, it's a blind alley. And we've talked about this in other podcasts about now I'm supposed to's and considerations and all of this stuff, and these are all monitored by what's in the reactive mind? Well, hey, maybe you should move to Los Angeles, and you could get a fresh. Oh no, Los Angeles. Oh, that's my dad died there, and oh, it's
Yeah.
terrible, and I could never go there. It's because it's related. A equals A equals A. It's one thing equals another equals another, and so that's part of the labyrinth that leads to a dead end. Oh, I can't do this. Oh, I can't do that. Oh, I can't do
Yeah.
this. And you go down all these blind alleys and dead ends because you have these fixed ideas that are considerations on what you can or cannot do based off of past locks, secondaries, and engrams that have created this emotional charge that says, danger, danger, danger. I can't do that. And this is where you run into, why can't I ever get ahead in life? Why can't I do this? I always wanted to do this, but I've always got a false start and I can never complete the cycle of action. This is why. That is the miss emotion. That is the emotion that you're running into that is pushing you in a direction than the one you want to go in.
Yeah. Yeah. And as you continue to release this charge, even just dealing with these secondaries, man, this is so good because even just dealing with these secondaries, the anxiety starts to feel safe again. That part where you used to feel anxiety, now you feel safe again. Where you used to say, I can't do this, I can't do that. Now you start to regain abilities, right? Where you used to feel shame and feeling ashamed of how you express or what you said or what you do or whatever. When crying becomes uncontrollable, all that stuff becomes a thing of the past, and you now get to experience the emotions that you need to experience in the moment. So again, I say we're not automatons, we're not robots. We do have feelings, and boy, oh boy, you don't want to see you don't want to see me angry. Folks said, right?
Yeah,
But
there's nothing wrong with having feelings. We're not trying to make you a Vulcan or something like that. Because I've seen
yeah,
a lot of people say, well, I just won't have feelings anymore when I'm clear. No, 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 no,
no,
no. You will have the appropriate feelings, not
yes,
feelings that you thought you were supposed to have, and you can move up and down the tone scale at will. Does that mean that you won't get upset about something? Well, maybe you'll get upset about something because you see an injustice,
yeah,
or maybe your employees just don't understand how to do something, and you think, why am I getting angry about this? Okay, what could I take responsibility for? Oh, I know. After you talk to them, you find out they don't know how to do the job. Okay, well, that's my responsibility. I need to write up a hat and give them a check sheet that they know the policies and they can get through this, and then they can do their job instead of, George, by God, why aren't you doing what you're supposed to be doing? You know better. You're fired.
yeah. It's
That's
it's it's to-
that's it's not analytical.
right. It's totally irrational. Yeah, and so we're going to um, kind of open the doors, so to speak, to where those of you who are having these emotional turmoils, those of you who are going through this emotional stuff, and it seems to be like this has been going on for years. This has been going on for quite some time. This is not something that's going to be, you know, it's just going to go away after time. When they say time heals all wounds or whatever, no, it's not just going to go away after a while. This is stuff that by going in and being able to confront your own true self, your own past, incidents and stuff that's happened to you, and really deal with those things, can that emotional energy kind of be discharged to where now I get who I am, where I am, what I'm doing now in present time. And now, if I do feel something, get this, and I'm going to say this, and this has been my experience, being clear, you feel feelings richly. And I'm saying this for real, for real. You feel feelings richly. And so when I feel these feelings, it feels um not like it's not like it's taking control of me. It's like I control my feelings. And right now, this is I'm angry about this. I'm angry concerning this situation. I'm not okay with whatever's going on right now. I'm grieving because of the loss of a loved one, whatever the case may be. I feel those feelings and I feel them richly, but guess what? Very shortly thereafter, I'm back up the tone scale, right?
Right.
Very, very shortly thereafter, I'm back up, even if it's to a point of mild interest. Doesn't mean you're back happy. Ooh, everything is fine. And the leprechauns are skipping. No, it just means that I'm back to a place where, you know what? I can have this moment and I can experience this moment and I can go through this thing and I can think about the good times and I can remember the joys and sorrows of, whatever might have happened, and I can move through that in a very rich way. It's so wonderful to be clear. It's such a rich vibrational experience. I don't know how to explain it to you, but you get the fullness of it, and then you say, now back to myself. I get the fullness of that emotional experience, mm, and then back to myself.
Right. Right. It doesn't cut you off from anything once it's been discharged, but you can look at it for what it is, and it's no different than I'm going to Disney. I went to Disneyland, and you remember going to Disneyland. Oh, I had a car accident and my leg got broken. All right, yeah, that happened. Okay, so what do you want to do for dinner?
Right. Right. Yes.
Because there's no myth emotion in it, and that's
Yeah.
a fact. That's what happens when it's done standardly and correctly, using Dianetic and or Scientological procedure, depending on what's going on. But it's also interesting to note that Dianetics can be used for so many different things. It's not what you might think, that it's just these incidents that happen, because so much of what we experience can be handled with Dianetic procedure, and there are so many different things you can do with it. It's like having that multi-tool in your pocket that has, or a Swiss Army knife that has all of these different tools and a toothpick. So if you need to get out something between your teeth, or you need to cut something open, or if you need to tighten something up or whatever, that's what New Era Dianetics does. And that's how this happened. Is Dianetics in 1950 was good old Dianetics. And then by late 1970s, now we have New Era Dianetics, and all of these discoveries are all wrapped into one. You're using a meter and you can address things so much, even allergies, even allergies.
Yes. Oh my God.
And that causes a lot of misemotion with people, for example. Uh, it just goes on and on and on. So it's such a multi-tool for so many things, and everything is the same way with a being. And then when you get on the OT levels, you've got newer Dianetics for OTs that doesn't even use Dianetics, because you can't. It's titled that you can't use Dianetics on a clear. You have to use Scientology, but it does the same thing through Scientology auditing, and it's unbelievable what happens, and it's very, very clever, and it's just mind blowing how simple it is. But this stuff works.
Yes. Yeah. And so we just wanted to do this episode just to kind of help you understand your own emotional charge, where these emotional charges come from, especially when you yourself even know that it's not you. It's not, this is not how you choose to feel. You know, this is something that's coming up and it needs to be looked at, it needs to be addressed. Imagine what happens when you start clearing this stuff out, right? You start going into these areas and you really get to the root of why you've been feeling the way you've been feeling for so many years, why you've been, mighty low around certain things, why you felt like you couldn't do certain things, just because. And so, if you want deeper guidance and if you want us to kind of help you with that through auditing, through the coursework, we do the TRs and objectives, which is where student and coach relationship, where you're working your TRs and you're making sure you're getting these communication uh, channels handled very, very well, and just cleaning up that emotional space. So the technology is definitely here, and we're here for it. So
Yeah.
let's get into it.
Well, I hope everybody got something out of this and has a better understanding of what causes emotion slash misemotion. And it's very easy to understand if you've experienced it yourself. And once you see that it can actually happen, you go, oh, there's a tool for this. And that's all it takes is once you have the reality of that fixed that, you're like, I want some more of this. So we'll be back with another podcast tomorrow. And thanks for listening. And we hope you enjoyed the podcast. We'll see you soon. Namaste. And we love you. Bye bye.
Peace.